Rabbi Manis Friedman. Hello, thank God it's Tuesday. And the topic that I'd like to raise right now, today, is a very, very sensitive topic for pretty much every Jewish people, because unfortunately it's very divisive, and it's always a terrible thing when something divides us. And the question is about the real meaning of Zionism. What is the real meaning of Zionism, and why is it so divisive, everywhere? It divides the Jewish people, it divides not just the Jewish people. It's a very, very divisive word. And the reason I'm bringing this topic up is that a lot of people don't know that every 5 years there's an elections that are held here in the United States, and 152 delegates from United States are voted into World Zionist Congress. World Zionist Congress consists of 524 delegates. About 200 of them come from Israel, 152 from United States, and 173 from the rest of the diaspora. World Zionist Congress is there to actually, hopefully, unite the Jewish people and connect them to Israel. Yes, yet it seems to be playing another role, that it seems to be divisive and it brings division amongst Jewish people. So basically, the reason for this program is to understand Zionism a little better. What does it mean to people, and why it's causing such a division?
It's a really good question, because you would really expect that this would unite the people. I mean, who doesn't feel an allegiance to Eretz Yisrael? In fact, our connection to the land is so deep and so strong, we don't need a new ism called Zionism. Zion, which is Zion, is everywhere in our prayers, it's everywhere in our liturgy, it's everywhere in our Talmud. Why did we create another ism? First of all, you could say, you don't need Zionism. Judaism is all about Zion. My problem is we shouldn't even call it Judaism. We don't need that ism either. I think that's the problem, the isms. There are certain truths that are eternal, that unite us. Then we go about creating isms. Feminism, Judaism, communism, Zionism. Why do we need that stuff? If what you're promoting is not absolutely true, why do you promote it? And if it is absolutely true, then it's not an ism. And you don't need to start a whole new philosophy. Truth is truth. It's always been true. We need to strip away all of our isms, because they do create friction. I don't know of a single ism that didn't divide people. So we really shouldn't even call it Judaism. The land is holy, given to us by God. That's Torah. That's forever. We don't need. So the ism is basically either a political movement or an agenda that somebody has and trying to promote. So our connection to the land of Israel started in 1948. 1948 of creation. Because in 1948, after creation, 1,948 years after creation, Abraham was born. And God promised Abraham this land. So why are we introducing this recently invented idea when we have an eternal truth? So the objectives are pretty much the same. Jews living in Israel belong there. They should be supported. They should be protected. Yes, of course. Who disagrees with that? When you make it an ism, then there are going to be counter-isms that are going to fight with it. So, for example, this complicated issue, is the government in Israel today, which is man-made, is it a democracy? Is it socialism? Confusing. And it creates internal frictions. So it is dividing us, but it really shouldn't be. Just take the ism off it. Zion, without the ism. Perfect. Jews without the ism. Perfect. We keep trying to improve on what's already true and real. You can't improve on what's true and real. You can only bring yourself more in line with what is true and real, and that's an improvement. So we're improving ourselves, we're not improving truth and reality.
Rabbi Friedman, have to ask here, what about Hasidism?
No, we don't call it Hasidism. No. We call it the inner level of Torah. Pnimius HaTorah. It's the mystical side of the Torah. And Torah is not an ism. Isms came out of Torah, but Torah is not an ism. It's simply a reality. The reality. So, getting past the isms, even if it wasn't divisive, getting rid of the isms is always a good idea. Because even if it's not divisive, it's idolatry. When you have a commitment to God, you have a mission that is God-given, every ism is a distraction. It's a foreign god. It's an idol. And they never work. They never work. They ask for your allegiance. They ask for your sacrifice, for your children. Sacrifice everything that moves, and then they disappoint you. So let's simplify things. Get rid of the isms. We don't need it.
Rabbi Friedman, is it true that we can bring godliness absolutely anywhere, and that's kind of our job?
Yeah. And that's why we are everywhere.
Why can't we do that in politics?
Oh. Politics is designed to be ungodly. No, actually that's not true. But it has become, politics has become a philosophy that is godless. It's the idea that people can govern themselves without God. Some say the best form of government is communism. Some say it's socialism. Some say it's fascism. Some say it's democracy. Some say it's monarchy. They all have one thing in common. There's no mention of God. So human beings trying to govern themselves without God, godly instruction, it's never going to work. It can't. Because governing, meaning large groups of people living in harmony, is not human, it's not normal, it's not natural, it can't be done. Unless you bring in something higher, bigger than all of them, something more than the sum of the parts, which kind of equalizes in the presence of something much bigger than ourselves, our differences disappear. The only way human beings can get along is if we bring God into the picture. We're learning this the hard way, but we're learning it. We're seeing it. Every form of government has its virtues, but it also has its horrors. So it's not surprising that the sages said Torah was given to bring peace to the world. But when you turn Torah into an ism, then it's not the Torah and it's not going to bring peace. What is it that really unites people? I mean, just factual. What unites people? What do we all have in common that is concrete? Well, we all need the same things. That doesn't unite people. That's what makes people fight with each other. What do we have in common? All of us. Not just the West, not just the affluent countries, not just first world, not just third world. What do we really have in common? Hunger? That's pathetic. My hunger is not your hunger. I'm more hungry than you, so I have to eat first. So you're my enemy, I have to steal your food. Hunger does not unite. The only thing, realistically, practically, doably, the only thing that unites us is that we were all created for the same purpose. And that is to serve God. Not to be God and not to use God. To serve God. And we're learning this the hard way, but we are learning life means nothing unless you are serving a purpose. To just be is intolerable. Even if you're the richest person in the world. If you see yourself as just being, you're miserable. It's not who we are. We are designed, we are created, and we are fashioned, and we are educated to serve. That we all have in common. There isn't a single human being in the world who doesn't have the responsibility of making the world better. I mean, just bringing a child into the world. That's pretty universal. Used to be, anyway. That's making the world better. Adding life to life, that's better. Charity, making sure that everybody is safe and healthy and knows why they exist. These things never divide people. And we're getting there. That's the good news. We're getting there. People want to know, what can I do? Not what should I believe, not what party should I belong to. What can I do? There's an urgent drive. I need to be doing, producing, fulfilling some mission. And if I don't know what it is, it just keeps me awake at night and drives me crazy. Like knowing that you have an appointment that is very important and you can't remember where or who, drives you crazy.
Rabbi Friedman,
And yeah,
but can't we do this in politics? Can't we bring this message? It seems like the community that knows this, the community that spreads it all over the world, in most in places where there was nothing before, brings this message of God to the world. Why doesn't that community go right into the center, the epicenter of all evil, which is politics, and change the perception and perspective there? Teach those who are there, who need these teachings. I believe there's a lot of confusion, and most of the confusion that comes down to us comes from that epicenter of leadership. So why aren't we going into that epicenter and teaching those who need it most?
we should, we could, but we should do that with religion too. Religion is also a great organization. It represents a lot of people in the world, and you have to bring God into the religion properly. Same is true with education. You have schools, universities, colleges, useless without bringing God into it. So politics, education, religion, science. Science is terrible without God. Dangerous. So every area that has followers, believers, members, yeah, that's good. That's where the people are that need to be introduced and made aware of how they are supposed to serve God in their capacity. So it's not like dismantle all politics, dismantle all universities or all religions. On the contrary, if everyone would recognize there is no good politics without God, there is no good education without God, there is no good religion without God. Yeah, well, that's the universal truth that needs to influence everything we do. But a person looking for politics is looking in the wrong place.
Why isn't there God in politics in Israel, even though there are religious people in Knesset? Why isn't it spreading? Why isn't it catching on?
Well, we have this crazy mistaken idea of separation of church and state, which has its value, but it's misunderstood or misrepresented. Separation of church and state doesn't mean godless. Anything godless is doomed. Separation of church and state simply means if you're going to serve God, then it's between you and God. The state does not tell you how to serve God. Very important, very true, very good. And very intimate and personal, which is how the relationship with God should be. So separation of church and state means the ism of church, the ism of religion. Don't make religion part of your house rules or state laws. But to not base your laws on what God says, it's crazy. So people get a little confused. Either they separate church and state, including God, or they try to impose God, which is a disaster in the opposite direction. Neither of them work. So you need a little bit of a wisdom to know what does belong and what doesn't. It can't be all or nothing. So state promoted or state-sponsored religion? Absolutely not. But a godless state? Absolutely not.
Rabbi Friedman, you said that we need this everywhere. We need it in politics. We need these values, Torah values, our teachings. We need it in politics. We need it in education. We need it in science. We need it everywhere. Why do you think the reason why we're not there, why it's not there, is it because we don't want or we are not wanted?
Ooh. Well, there is this kind of a agenda in science. We're trying to explain the world without God. Human beings are very, very smart, very creative, very inventive. We should be able to figure it out without God. Okay, give it your best shot, but admit when it's not working. And it's not working. So there is this agenda, there is this desire to be able to manage without God. Why? I don't know. Arrogance, our intelligence, or our technological advancements has gone to our head. And it's almost like, if I have to use God to describe the universe, then I failed. It's a failure. Like admitting that God is the creator feels like a failure on the human level, which is ridiculous. Discovering God, understanding God, and serving God is part of human invention and human intelligence. And I guess the same thing is with politics. Why do we need God to tell us how to behave? Let's get together and work it out. We're smart people. So for many, it seems like almost an insult and a defeat, a failure, if I have to listen to God. Because that means I'm not smart enough? You're not smart enough. I think we've proved that over and over and over throughout history. No, we're not smart enough to run a universe that we didn't create. It's not even an insult. It's not even an embarrassment. I don't know how to drive a car that I didn't design or study. So God invents a world. We have no idea where it came from, why it's here, and we're going to run it? We can't. We can't. You can't walk into a finished creation and think that you can take over. It's not possible. There's a famous joke, which I think is it's a great joke. The atheist says to God, I've told you this many times, the atheist says to God, we don't need you anymore because now with our technology, we can do anything you can do. And God says, can you make a man out of dust? And the scientist says, yes. God says, go ahead, let me see. So he starts gathering up some dust. And God says to him, no, not my dust. You want to create a man out of dust? First create some dust. We can't do that. Okay, can you actually admit you can't create the dust? Why do you think you can figure it out? If you can't create it, you can't run it. You can barely run what you did create, like Frankenstein. Even what you create gets out of control. What you didn't create, why do you think you can? It's silly. It's not a failure on our part. It's an impossibility. You want to run a world? First create one. Oh, you can't. Well, so what's your conclusion? You're going to be the master of a world you can't create? The embarrassment is that you thought you could. That's the only embarrassment. The good news again is we're learning it. We're getting there. People are waking up to this reality, primarily because we saw all of our isms fail. Just in the last 3 years. Religion has failed. Science has failed. Universities have failed. Politics. So, we're starting to understand why. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about. You can't create a religion because you can't create God. You can't run the universe because you can't create a universe. And you can't invent reality because you didn't create reality. So why can't we just look at the truth and recognize it? It takes wisdom. That's not unintelligent. It's mature. We're maturing. I think that's the right word for our generation.
Rabbi Friedman, I still have to ask. We're bringing these teachings to places, to the streets, to the people, but we're not bringing them to the institutions. Why is that?
Hopefully, we're bringing it to the people who run the institutions. I'm not sure that that's going to be effective, but it sounds like, or it seems like, if you want to change society, talk to the boss, talk to the one who's running the show. In other words, top down. If we can influence the leaders, the teachers, the influencers, then they will influence the rest of the world. It sounds like that should work, but it doesn't work, or it's not working. For some reason, this generation has to work the other way. When enough people realize what's good and right and true and want it, the leaders will all fall in place. The leaders have become followers. So the leaders will do what the people want. The people will not do what the leaders want. And that is a very clear prophecy, prediction, where the sages say before Mashiach comes, the leaders will be like leaders of a dog pack. Wolves have a leader, and they follow their leader. The dog that leads the dog pack is constantly looking back to see if the others are approving of his leadership. And if they're not, then he changes. So there is no real leadership in the dog world, unless they're trained. But naturally, so the sages say, before the coming of Mashiach, every leader will basically look over his shoulder to see if the electorate likes what they're doing, and if not, they'll change. So the leadership is actually the people, and they're influencing the who should be the leaders. So to get to the people, I think that is, and that's why God gave us the internet. Internet is not very useful if you want to get to the leaders. Like if I want to talk to Putin, what do? Google him? I can't get to him. Can't get to him through the internet. But if I want to talk to millions of people, internet. It's great.
Rabbi Friedman, I'm still going to go back to one of the reasons why we're having this conversation, which is the elections that are coming up to the World Zionist Congress. Yes, the word Zionism is terrible. I don't like any kind of political isms or anything like that, or politics in itself. However, it is an opportunity because it's an election, and it's election of the delegates, and quite a bit of delegates can come in there and make some sort of a difference, can bring their message. That's the beauty of it, that until 2 elections ago, only the left participated in things like this. Again, yes, I'm sorry, this is political no matter how we swing it. And they were bringing their very reform views into World Zionist Congress. As of last election, the Orthodox community said, no, we don't think that this is a good idea, that we're completely staying away from something like this, because we need some sort of a balance, and made quite a bit of a difference. And now there's another opportunity to make a difference again. That opportunity is coming up. And my question is, shouldn't people be tripping over themselves trying to participate in something that can make a tremendous difference? And nobody needs to compromise their ways, their views, because this is not to be controlled. It's actually to bring something to the table.
Absolutely. Wherever Jews get together, there is a potential for goodness. But it should be the people, not the philosophy or the movement. People engaged in this project are people, and they're Jewish. So the first thing is, every meal that they have must be kosher. And all men should be wearing a head covering. I mean, if it's a gathering of Jews, why aren't you looking Jewish? Why don't you sound Jewish? Why doesn't it taste Jewish? So the food should be kosher, like Jews everywhere in the world. Men should be covering their head. A blessing should be said over the bread. It's a Jewish movement, and it's about Jews, and it's for Jews, and it's by Jews. And there's nothing Jewish. So you start with the people. If the people have their head on straight, then the organization will go in a good direction. So yes, we should influence them. Absolutely. Again, we don't dismantle organizations. We bring God into the picture.
My point exactly, Rabbi Friedman.
Why a prime minister of Israel comes to the UN without a kippah? Why? And you stand there saying, I represent the Jewish people. So why don't you look like a Jew? There's something confusing about it. It leaves people scratching their heads. You look Jewish, you sound Jewish, you are Jewish, no further questions. But when you're representing the Jewish people, and you don't eat Jewish, you don't dress Jewish, you don't talk Jewish, something's confusing. So anyone who can influence the World Congress, the Zionist World Congress, absolutely.
Can I just give a shout out at this particular moment? If anybody is interested, please email info@rusa.fm. Please get involved if you're interested in making a difference. Certainly don't want to be the only one there waving a flag.
I think we've mentioned this before, but the Rebbe said when Gorbachev opened up the borders, lifted the Iron Curtain, the Rebbe said the Russians who are coming to Israel will bring idealism back to the country. Russians have good reason to be idealistic. Because if you're not idealistic, you get dragged under. So if the Russian influence can be felt in the Congress, I think it would be very, very good.
We're coming together, Rabbi Friedman. We are coming together. A lot of very good, passionate people with a good message are coming together, and this is the time to do it. Again, I'm going to give a shout out. If anybody out there is listening to us who wants to get involved, it's info@rusa.fm, and we'll send you the information of how it's possible to get involved. And it's absolutely worthwhile because it's something that where we can make a difference on a big scale. So
through the people.
Rabbi Friedman, thank you so much. There was so much clarity in this program today. A lot of very, very important information. I know there's more to cover, and hopefully we'll have a chance to go into things deeper. And we appreciate very much your time, your wisdom, your clarity that you give us of how to navigate this very, very confusing world we live in right now. And thank you. You're doing this constantly. And I just want to also say that it's always a pleasure to support your cause, which is happening right now. It's goodtoknow.org. Everybody who's out there who benefits, who listens to you and benefits from everything that you do should also participate, because it's a huge, huge mitzvah to support what you're doing, because it's giving so many people so much power and so much clarity and so much inspiration. So it's goodtoknow.org. Rabbi Friedman, happy birthday. We know that it's in your honor. It's in your it's what you do, and we definitely wish you so many more years past 120 to do the important work that you do and to give so much light. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving it.
Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Thank you. Let's just end with this principal concept. Zionism can also create a new identity. Every ism does that. So those who are Zionists will now be called Israelis rather than Jews. That's not an improvement. Israeli is a new invention. Jews have been around for a long time. And the good news is people in Israel are realizing this, and all the Israelis are going back to being Jews.
Good news.
It's good news.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.